I was in 5th grade when I first heard of the concept of anybody wanting to lose weight. It was actually my 5th grade teacher. One day, one of the kids had a birthday party or something like that, and she refused to take any of the cake, and she said she was on a diet. And I had never heard that word before. I thought it was some kind of a religious matter, because my mom, when her father passed away, my mom went on a fast for some time out of respect. And I thought diet meant some kind of a religion. I really did, until I dug a little bit further, and she said it was a new year. It was actually 1998, new year, and she wanted to lose some weight. She had gained a lot of weight in the years before, and so that was that. And then it wasn't long before I saw her eating all sorts of junk again. So it lasted like a week or so. But and then I noticed people do this over and over again. My teacher wasn't unique, right? At the time, I thought that my teacher, it was an English teacher actually. I thought she just knew English and nothing else, right? That's why she failed. But I learned that it's pretty common to do that, and it made me think. If we could have, well, I know there was another interesting New Year that I noticed. It was actually this past year, 2023. I had traveled to Globe, Arizona, to hawk my art. You know, there's a bunch of consignment shops and all that. And got back to my Airbnb, and as I was getting into the apartment building is non-smoking, but just outside people sometimes smoke. And I saw, it was, I think when I got back to my apartment, it was, I want to say just after 11:30 at night. And this guy sat there smoking one cigarette after another. It must have been 8 or 9 cigarettes. And I generally like to keep my distance away from cigarette smoke, so I was kind of a distance, thinking, okay, I'll go in after he finishes his cigarettes, and there's no sign of him stopping. I eventually had to hold my breath and run past him, and then it dawned on me, oh, it's 11:30 on New Year's Eve. He wants to finish all his cigarettes before going into the new year. I guarantee you he's smoking today, because that kind of attitude, he's telling himself he's sacrificing something. Right. This isn't. I want to get off of smoking because of how much harm it's doing me, and I'm not even enjoying it. This isn't that. This is I'm giving up my precious cigarettes. But that was kind of comical to see. But it hit me. What if we had more anchor days like that? Right. If New Year's can inspire people to think about their weight, smoking. If only we had these days more often, and I have an idea of how to do that, and the idea comes from Mary Curie's invention, polonium. So polonium has a half-life of 138.376 days. So what we could do is each year would be 138 days, except we have to add a few leap years, right? 0.376 is almost exactly 3/8. So 3 out of every 8 years, right? So if you take your year and divide by 8, if it has a remainder of 2, 4, and 6, we're going to add an extra day. So years of 0, 1, 3, 5, and 7 would have 138 days each. 2, 4, and 6 would have 139. And then every 1,000 years, right? So on year 1,000, we would add back 1 day to make 0.376. So with that in mind, year 0, if I can get my camera to zoom in properly, year 0 would begin on July 18 of 1898 when Mary Curie discovered polonium, and year 1 would begin 138 days later on December 3rd, 1898, right? So that first batch of polonium that Mary Curie discovered, half of it would be alive on December 3rd, 1898. And then under this scheme, year 329 would have begun on March 11, 2023, and year 330 would begin on July 27. So notice how, let's say in March 11, you decided that you weren't happy with your eating habits. It was around that time that I decided that I needed to slow down. I was eating too quickly, mindlessly. It was around that time that I decided I really needed to slow down. And, after a few months, some of that has worn off. Unfortunately, you want to slow down, but you realize that life doesn't always allow you to do that, right? So, for example, this past week, I had some art projects. I had, some AI projects that I'm going to name after Polonium, right? And I don't like to get my keyboard dirtied, so I don't want to eat in front of the computer. It also intrudes on my thought process. So I'm kind of in a jam. I know I should be eating slowly. I benefit a lot from it. I don't always have the luxury of doing it. And then, unfortunately, sometimes at various jobs that I've been at, not necessarily at the current one that I'm at, people often shit on me. They think that I don't have family to take care of. They call me in like in 5 minutes, right? And so then I have to jam everything down my throat. I really hate to waste food either. If I'm at Five Guys, right, eating my favorite meal, and my boss calls me, right, what do I do then, right? Anyways, life gets in the way. In an ideal world, eating slowly would be a lot easier, right? In a post-scarcity world, where work was more optional, oh my God, my eating would look a whole lot more different. But let's say after a few months, life has creeped in. July 27th, I could give it another shot. The other thing I would hope is that we have some kind of a jubilee every 138 days. Or every 138 days, we ought to start with a clean plate, right? Have all our work completely wind down to zero, right? So one of the reasons I love teaching at the community college that I'm teaching at right now is that a semester ends and everything winds down to zero and you start with a fresh slate again, right? I wish it worked like that at every place, right? In some way, right?